Today, we shall talk about why AI triggers resistance.
So, what if the most common way we all talk about AI is also the most dangerous? We're constantly told that it's just a tool, like a smarter version of a spreadsheet. But the argument we're going to explore today says that viewing AI as just another tool isn't just a little off, it's a profound misunderstanding that actually causes organizations to fail. Let's dive in. Here it is, the core idea, and it is a challenging one. What this is saying is that most AI failures, they have nothing to do with buggy code or bad models. The real breakdown happens after the technology is working perfectly. It's a failure of leadership, a failure of psychology. It's a company's refusal to see what's actually happening right in front of them. It's a failure rooted in denial. So where does all this denial come from? Well, it starts with something our source material calls the tool illusion. This is that easy, comfortable idea that AI is just the next big thing, like the spreadsheet was, a way to do the same old jobs just a little bit faster. It feels right, it feels manageable, but as we're about to see, it is a deeply misleading way to look at the world. I mean, this slide just lays it out perfectly, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the tool view. It's a simple, straight line. It just helps us do more of what we already do. But on the right, that's the reality. It's a tornado. It doesn't just extend things, it completely reshapes the entire landscape. Think about it. You can manage a hammer with a simple safety policy. You can't manage a tornado that way. It changes the rules of the game itself. And this right here is the result. When AI starts making judgments or giving powerful recommendations, it's not just making a task go faster. It is literally rerouting the flow of information and power inside your organization. It changes who the expert is, it changes how decisions get approved, and it blurs the lines of who's ultimately responsible. This is a fundamental rewiring of your company's entire architecture of authority. So you have this huge gap, right? A gap between what AI is actually doing and what we're prepared to admit it's doing. And inside that gap, a really powerful dynamic starts to emerge. The source gives it a name, the shadow mechanism. In psychology, the shadow isn't some evil thing. It's just denied potential, the parts of ourselves we don't want to look at. Well, it's the exact same thing for an organization. We build these incredible AIs. We buy them, we rely on them, but then we act like their influence is just, assistive or optional. We use its power, but we refuse to give it any formal responsibility. And all that displaced, unacknowledged power, that becomes the shadow. And here's the thing, that power doesn't just go away. It follows a really predictable cycle. First, a new capability shows up. Then, the organization, not wanting to deal with changing its power structures, just suppresses the real implications. So that power gets pushed into the shadows, but it always comes back. It comes back as informal workarounds, as unowned risk, and eventually as crises that you just can't ignore anymore. So, let's be really clear about this. The primary risk here isn't that AI is going to act on its own. The real risk is that we will keep using it while refusing to restructure ourselves to account for it. Denial is what makes this dangerous, not the technology itself. Okay, so what does this kind of denial actually look like in the real world? When an organization is operating under this tool illusion and lets that shadow grow, you start to see these really predictable and very damaging symptoms start to pop up. The first one is called the pilot trap. I bet you've seen this. An organization gets stuck in an endless loop of pilot programs. It looks like progress, right? It feels prudent. But here's the trick. Pilots produce a lot of learning without ever forcing a change in power. So the organization looks busy and innovative, but its actual strategic position is getting weaker by the day. It's all motion with no real commitment. And next up is shadow adoption. This is what happens when your teams start using AI privately, maybe even against company policy, just to keep up with their workload. A sales team using an AI to write emails, or a manager using one to summarize performance reviews. Yeah, it boosts efficiency for sure, but it also creates this massive accountability vacuum and spreads unowned risk all across the company. And these symptoms create this dangerous cycle, this oscillation between three different failure modes. First, you've got pure denial, where you pretend AI is just helping out, while your competitors are flying past you. Then you swing over to capture, where you're secretly relying on it, but you're quick to blame a human when something goes wrong. And finally, after a crisis, you get overcorrection, a total ban on the tool, which just drives the problem even deeper underground. All right, so how do we break this cycle? It sounds pretty bleak. Well, the source argues that we have to stop treating this like a tech problem and start treating it like an architectural one. We need a clear path toward what it calls institutional maturity. And this is a really critical reframing. The objective shouldn't be to just adopt AI faster. The real goal is to become coherent in the face of this new power. It's about achieving functional integrity, where what your organization says it does finally matches up with what it actually does. The solution needs a whole new governance stack. And I'm not talking about a tech stack. This is an organizational one. It means you have to deliberately design how AI fits into everything. It starts with a clear narrative about what AI is and isn't doing. It means creating explicit cognitive protocols, actual rules for how humans are supposed to interact with AI outputs. It's about consciously designing everything from job roles to the very tempo of making decisions. This stuff can't be accidental. It has to be architecture. And all of this, every single piece of it, rests on one core principle. To govern power, you first have to make it visible. You have to be able to talk honestly, at least inside your own walls, about where these non-human systems are shaping your outcomes. Because once AI's influence is speakable, it becomes designable. So let's look at a concrete tool for creating this kind of visibility: Socratic protocols. The whole idea here is to make false certainty expensive. And this isn't just about, asking a few more polite questions in a meeting. This is about engineering skepticism directly into your workflows. This question right here gets to the absolute heart of it. A Socratic approach forces an organization to abandon what you might call the theater of decisiveness, that cultural pressure to always look confident and certain, and instead focus on what actually matters, getting it right. It is a profound shift away from performance and towards real integrity. See, a Socratic protocol isn't about better prompting. It's a constitutional constraint. It's a hard and fast rule that says a system cannot influence a high-stakes decision until it has made its own assumptions and its own uncertainties totally visible. This is how you prevent silent errors. You're turning this implicit, invisible authority into an explicit, auditable structure. And this brings us to the ultimate takeaway. AI is forcing a decision on every single organization. And the ones that try to put off that decision, they're not going to avoid change. They're just going to get change without any control, without any ownership, and without any legitimacy. Ultimately, the question that AI is posing isn't about technology. It's about identity. It is a test of institutional maturity and a test of our willingness to finally own the power that we've created.
Next video, next Thursday. Subscribe to learn more.